They expected medical aid, received human warships instead. The emergency alarms echoed through the council chambers on Prime. Ambassador stood at the central podium, his hands shaking as he read the latest reports. The numbers kept getting worse. Every hour brought more bad news from across the three worlds. 40%, he said quietly. 40% of our people are now infected. The council members sat in stunned silence. They were a peaceful species. For 3,000 years they had never known war. They built universities, not armies. They trained doctors, not soldiers. Their ships carried medicine and students, not weapons or warriors. Now something terrible was killing them, and they had no idea how to stop it. The plague had appeared 6 weeks ago on 3, the smallest of their worlds. At first, the doctors thought it was a normal disease. They began their usual treatments, but the sickness was different. It changed. Every time the doctors created a cure that worked, the plague shifted into something new. The medicine that saved lives yesterday was useless today. Chief Medical Director Hay entered the chamber, her face gray with exhaustion. She had not slept in 3 days. Dark circles hung under her eyes, and her uniform was stained with chemicals from the laboratory. "We cannot stop it," she said, her voice hollow. "This is not a natural disease. Someone made this. Someone designed it to change and adapt. Every time we find a solution, it mutates into a new form. Our hospitals are full. Our medical staff is becoming infected. In 2 weeks, maybe 3, our entire civilization will collapse." Felt his chest tighten. Who would do this to us? We have no enemies. We have never harmed anyone. A junior counselor stood up, fear clear in his voice. "The Empire. 3 months ago, they demanded we give them mining rights to our outer moons. We refused because the mining would poison our water supply. They said there would be consequences." "But biological warfare," another counselor protested. "That is illegal under Galactic Union law. No one has used bioweapons in centuries. The punishment for such crimes is severe." Hay laughed bitterly. "Laws mean nothing if we are all dead to enforce them. They do not care about laws. They care about power and profit." Looked around the room at his fellow. They were scholars and teachers, artists and healers. They had no weapons to defend themselves. They had no armies to strike back at their attackers. Their only hope was to reach out to others for help. "We must send a distress call to the Galactic Union," said firmly. "We need emergency medical aid, research vessels, vaccine synthesis ships, equipment we do not have, doctors who understand military-grade bioweapons. We cannot do this alone." The council voted unanimously. Within the hour, the distress call went out across the galaxy. It was marked as Priority 1, the highest level of emergency. The message was simple and desperate. The civilization was dying, and they needed help immediately. The responses came in slowly over the next 2 days. The Federation sent sympathies, but said their medical ships were busy elsewhere. The collective offered advice, but no actual ships or supplies. The Rigel Commonwealth said they would consider sending aid in 3 months, after their Senate voted on the matter. 3 months. They would be extinct in 3 months. More responses arrived, each one more useless than the last. Some species offered thoughts and prayers. Others sent research papers on disease management. A few promised to bring the matter up at the next Galactic Union Assembly in 8 weeks, but no one offered real help. No one was willing to risk angering the powerful Empire. Except one. The message from Earth was short. "Aid en route, arrival in 4 days, stay strong." Felt a wave of relief wash over him. Humanity, the newcomers to the galactic community. Earth had only joined the Galactic Union 20 years ago, but they had already built a reputation. They were odd creatures, these humans. They could be incredibly gentle, running hospitals and orphanages on a dozen worlds. But they could also be fierce, with a military that made older species nervous. 4 days, told the council. "We just need to hold on for 4 more days." Hay returned to her laboratory, to her dying patients, to her exhausted medical teams. She passed the word to every hospital, every clinic, every treatment center on all three worlds. Help was coming. Human aid would arrive in 4 days. Just hold on a little longer. The doctors and nurses took strength from this news. They worked harder, slept less, pushed themselves beyond their limits. Every life they saved now mattered even more. Help was coming. Just 4 more days. In the quarantine wards, infected heard the news and fought to stay alive. Parents held their sick children and whispered that the humans were coming. Elders who had given up hope found new strength. 4 days. They could survive 4 days. But the plague kept spreading. The hospitals filled beyond capacity. Medical supplies ran low. More doctors and nurses fell ill. The death counts rose higher each day. On Prime's orbital station, stood at his post. He was the human liaison officer assigned to the Galactic Union outpost. He had served there for 2 years, helping coordinate trade and cultural exchanges between humanity and the other species. Now he watched the worlds below and saw the lights of funeral pyres burning in the night. His communicator chimed, a message from Earth Command. Fleet deployed, Admiral Jin commanding, arrival in 96 hours, maintain position and prepare for coordination. Acknowledged the message and continued watching the dying world below. He knew something they did not know yet, something that would either save them or terrify them. The humans were not sending medical ships. They were sending something very different. On 3, in a children's hospital filled with small, sick bodies, Hay sat beside a young patient. The child was barely breathing. The medicine had stopped working an hour ago. The plague had adapted again. "Are the humans really coming?" the child whispered. "Yes," Hay promised. "They are coming, just hold on a little longer." The child closed her eyes and squeezed Hay's hand. "Will they bring medicine?" Hay did not know how to answer. She did not know what the humans were bringing. She only knew that they were coming, and that was all the hope she had left. 4 days, just 4 more days. Outside the hospital window, another funeral pyre lit up the night sky. They expected medical aid, received human warships instead. The orbital sensors detected them first, 17 signatures dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Ambassador rushed to the command center of the orbital station, his heart pounding with relief. Finally, the humans had arrived. Finally, they would be saved. He stood before the main display screen and waited for the images to resolve. Medical ships would appear any moment now. Large white vessels with red crosses painted on their hulls. Hospital ships filled with doctors and medicine and hope. The images came into focus. Felt his blood turn cold. They were warships, all of them. Massive dreadnoughts with armor plating thick enough to survive a star's corona. Sleek destroyers bristling with missile batteries. Heavy cruisers with turrets the size of buildings. Carriers that could hold hundreds of fighter craft. Every single vessel was built for war, designed to kill, created to destroy. Not a single medical ship among them. "No," whispered. "No, this cannot be right. Check the sensors again. There must be an error." The station commander, a young name, shook his head slowly. "The sensors are correct, Ambassador. Those are military vessels, all of them. The humans sent us an entire battle fleet." Panic spread through the command center. Officers stared at their screens in confusion and growing fear. Why would the humans send warships? Were they here to conquer? Had humanity decided to take advantage of weakness? His hands trembled as he opened a communication channel to the lead human vessel. "This is Ambassador of Prime. We requested medical assistance, emergency aid for plague victims. Where are your hospital ships?" A moment of silence. Then a human face appeared on the screen. She was a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. Her uniform marked her as a high-ranking officer. Behind her could see the bridge of a military vessel, with crew members at weapons stations and tactical displays. Ambassador, I am Admiral Jin of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to assist. But you brought warships, said, his voice rising. We need doctors, not soldiers. We need medicine, not missiles. Our people are dying of plague, not war. Admiral Jin's expression remained calm and unreadable. We brought what you need, Ambassador. Prepare your government for immediate coordination. We will begin operations within 12 hours. Operations? What operations? We need medical. Admiral Jin out. The screen went dark. Stood there in shock. Around him, officers erupted into frightened chatter. What were the humans planning? Why had they sent a military fleet? Nothing made sense. Within minutes, news of the human arrival spread across all three worlds. Public broadcasts showed images of the warships taking up positions around Prime. Social media exploded with confusion and fear. Some celebrated, believing the humans would protect them. Others panicked, certain that Earth had come to invade while they were weak. The Galactic Union demanded an explanation. Emergency channels lit up with messages from a dozen species, all asking the same question. Why had humanity sent a battle fleet to answer a medical emergency? Earth's representatives at the Galactic Union offered no explanations. They simply stated that humanity was rendering aid to an allied species and would provide more information when appropriate. The Empire responded with rage. Their ambassador issued a formal warning through official channels. Any military action in space will be considered an act of war against the Empire. We have legitimate research interests in this sector. Human interference will not be tolerated. In her laboratory on 3, Hay watched the news broadcasts with sinking despair. She had hoped for salvation. She had promised her patients that help was coming. Now she did not know what to tell them. The humans had sent weapons instead of medicine. What good were guns against a plague? Her communicator buzzed. A message from the human liaison officer. Director Hay, please come to the Union Station immediately. I can explain. Hay left her laboratory and took a transport shuttle to the orbital station. She found in a small observation room, watching the human warships through the window. He looked tired but not worried. That irritated her. Explain, she demanded. Explain why your people sent warships instead of hospital ships. Explain why you are not helping us. Turned to face her. He was young for a human, maybe 30 standard years. He had been kind during his 2 years on the station, always polite, always helpful with trade negotiations and cultural exchanges. Now his expression was serious, almost grim. We are helping you, he said quietly, just not in the way you expected. By bringing weapons, by parking a battle fleet in our orbit, how does that cure plague? It does not cure the plague, agreed, but it eliminates the source. Hay stared at him. What do you mean? You have been trying to cure a disease that constantly changes, correct? Every time your doctors create a treatment, the pathogen mutates into something new. Yes, but that is because it is not natural evolution, said. The plague is being actively modified. Someone is changing it deliberately, keeping you from finding a cure. As long as that source exists, you can never win. You can only watch your people die. The words hit Hay like a physical blow. She had suspected this, of course. Her research had suggested the plague was artificial, but to hear it confirmed so bluntly was different. She whispered. Nodded. Human intelligence has been tracking biowarfare projects for years. When we received your distress call, we investigated. We found the source. A military research station called Outpost 7, 3 light years from here. They are producing the pathogen and continuously mutating it. They plan to let it kill most of your population, then offer you the cure in exchange for territory and resources. Hay felt sick. But if you know where it is, if you can prove this, tell the Galactic Union. Bring charges, make them stop. That would take months, said. Investigations, trials, diplomatic negotiations. Your people do not have months. They have weeks, maybe days. So we are not going to file charges or negotiate. We are going to destroy that station and everyone on it. We are going to force them to give us the original pathogen data. Then we are going to synthesize a cure and save your people. But that means war, Hay protested. They are pacifists. We cannot condone military action. We do not believe in violence. Then you condone the death of your species, asked, his voice hard. Because that is your choice, violence or extinction. We did not create this situation. They did, but we are going to end it. You cannot just decide to start a war in our name, Hay said desperately. We are not asking your permission, replied. We are telling you what is going to happen. In 36 hours this ends. The source of your plague will be eliminated. They will pay for their crime. Your people will live. That is what humanity does for its allies. Hay wanted to argue, but she had no words. Part of her was horrified at the idea of violence, of war, of destruction. But another part, a desperate, exhausted part, wanted exactly what promised. She wanted the plague to end. She wanted her patients to live. She wanted to stop watching children die. What if they fight back? She asked quietly. Looked out at the human warships hanging in space. Then they will learn why most species in this galaxy are very careful about making humanity angry. Somewhere in the distance, alarms began to sound. New contacts were entering the system, lots of them. The Empire had sent their fleet. They expected medical aid, received human warships instead. The council chambers filled quickly as members rushed to their seats. Ambassador stood at the podium, his face pale. On the main screen, Admiral Jin appeared via hologram, her expression serious and professional. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship hummed with activity. Members of the council, Jin began without preamble, I am going to show you something. Human intelligence has been monitoring activities in this sector for 18 months. What you are about to see will be disturbing. The screen changed. Satellite footage appeared, showing a massive space station orbiting a dead moon. The station was dark gray, angular, and covered in sensor arrays. Ships came and went constantly, all of them military vessels. This is Outpost 7, Jin continued. It is officially listed as a mining research facility. That is a lie. It is a biological warfare development center. From this station, the Empire produces and tests military-grade pathogens. The image zoomed in, showing laboratories visible through the station windows. Council members gasped as they recognized containment equipment similar to their own medical facilities, but much larger and more sophisticated. A human intelligence officer named Saul appeared on split screen beside Jin. He was young, with dark eyes and a grim expression. 3 months ago, ships left this station carrying sealed containers. We tracked those ships. They entered space. 2 days later, the first plague cases appeared on 3. Felt his legs weaken. He had suspected, but seeing the proof was different. Saul continued, bringing up more data. The plague you are fighting is called Variant 7 in records. It is designed to constantly mutate in response to medical treatment. Every time your doctors create a cure, sensors on infected individuals transmit data back to Outpost 7. Scientists analyze the cure, modify the pathogen, and broadcast new instructions to the virus itself using quantum entanglement technology. That is impossible, one council member protested. No one has that technology. They do, Saul said flatly, which means you can never cure this plague. Never. As long as that station exists, as long as scientists continue to modify the pathogen, your people will keep dying. You could work for 1,000 years and never find a permanent solution. Chief Medical Director Hay stood up in the council chamber. If what you say is true, if they are actively controlling the plague, then what can we do? You said we cannot cure it, so why are you here? Admiral Jin's expression hardened. We are here to eliminate the source. In 36 hours, human forces will assault Outpost 7. We will destroy their laboratories, capture their research data, and take possession of the original, unmodified pathogen. Once we have that, we can synthesize a real cure, a cure that works, a cure they cannot change. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Council members stood, some shouting in protest, others in support. Raised his hands for silence, but it took several minutes for order to return. Admiral Jin said carefully, "What you are proposing is an act of war. They are a peaceful species. We have no military. We do not believe in violence. We cannot support such action." "Then your species will die," Jin said simply. "I am not trying to be cruel, Ambassador. I am stating a fact. You have two choices. You can maintain your principles and go extinct, or you can allow us to do what must be done and survive. There is no third option." "But the Galactic Union." "The Galactic Union sent you sympathy and thoughts and prayers," Jin interrupted. "We sent you warships. Who do you think actually cares about your survival?" An older council member stood up, his voice shaking with emotion. "You are asking us to abandon everything we believe in. Our entire civilization is built on peace and cooperation. If we condone military action, if we accept violence as a solution, we stop being." A human medical officer appeared on screen next to Jin. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes but a tired expression. Her name tag read Sung. "I understand your position," Sung said gently. "Truly I do, but let me ask you something. If a predator was killing your children, would you debate philosophy or would you stop the predator? They are not your philosophical opponents. They are not interested in debate or negotiation. They created a biological weapon specifically designed to exterminate your species. They did this for profit, for territory. They are going to watch you die and then take your worlds." She paused, letting her words sink in. "My team has analyzed the plague extensively. We have the facilities and expertise to create a cure, but only if we have the original pathogen data. That data is on Outpost 7. They will never give it to us voluntarily, so we have to take it by force. I know this violates your principles, but your principles mean nothing if your species is extinct." Hay stood again. "What about the Empire's fleet? We have received reports that 53 warships are heading toward space. They outnumber your forces 3-1. Even if we agreed to your plan, how can you possibly succeed?" Captain Wu appeared on screen, the commander of the human dreadnought's Fury. He was older than the others, maybe 50, with gray hair and scars on his face. "Let us worry about the fleet, Director. Human ships are designed for exactly this type of situation. We know how they fight. We know their tactics and their capabilities. They do not know ours." "You cannot be certain of victory," argued. "No one is ever certain in war," Wu agreed. "But we did not come here to lose. We came here to save your people, and we will do that with or without your blessing." Saul brought up new data on the screen. "There is something else you should know. Outpost 7 is not the only biowarfare facility. We have identified 47 similar stations throughout the galaxy. 47 other species who are being targeted with tailored pathogens. They have built an empire on biological warfare and extortion. They infect peaceful species, then offer cures in exchange for resources, territory, and servitude." The council chamber fell silent. 47 species. They were not the only victims. They were just the latest in a long line of civilizations being slowly murdered for profit. "If we destroy Outpost 7, Jin said, if we expose the biowarfare program to the galaxy, we can save those 47 species too. We can end this, but only if we act now, while we have the element of surprise." A young council member named Myra stood up. She was barely 30, one of the members of the government. "Admiral Jin, if we refuse your help, will you still attack the station?" Jin met her gaze steadily. "Yes, human lives have already been spent getting here. We came to save you and we will complete that mission. But it would be better if you supported us. Better for your people's morale. Better for our future relationship." Myra nodded slowly. Then I vote to support the human operation, not because I believe in war, not because I want violence, but because I want my species to survive. I want the children in our hospitals to live. I want Director Hay to stop watching her patients die. Sometimes the right choice is not the easy one. Other council members began to stand, one by one, voicing their support. Not all of them. Some still protested, still clung to their pacifist principles, but the majority voted to allow human military action. Looked at the vote count and felt a piece of his soul die. They were a peaceful people. They had been peaceful for 3,000 years. Now they were endorsing war. History would remember this moment, this terrible, necessary moment. Admiral Jin, he said quietly, the Council authorizes human forces to take whatever action is necessary to eliminate the source of the plague. May whatever gods exist forgive us. You have nothing to be forgiven for, Jin replied. You are not the ones who created this situation. You are simply trying to survive it. That is not a sin. That is courage. The hologram faded. In the council chambers, sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just agreed to. On the human flagship, Admiral Jin turned to her crew. All ships battle stations. We have 36 hours to prepare. Make them count. They expected medical aid, received human warships instead. The armada arrived like a storm. 53 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their hulls were dark red, almost black, covered in spike-like protrusions that served both as armor and weapons mounting points. They were larger than the human ships, built to intimidate as much as to fight. On the bridge of Fury, Captain Wu watched the enemy fleet take up positions. His crew worked calmly at their stations, running final systems checks. No panic, no fear, just professional focus. Enemy fleet is moving to encircle us, his tactical officer reported. They are trying to cut us off from the planet. Let them, Wu said calmly. Maintain defensive formation around Prime. All ships power up point defense systems. Launch fighter screen. On Prime's orbital station, Ambassador watched the tactical display with growing dread. The ships outnumbered the humans 3-1. They were larger, more heavily armed, and had the advantage of position. The human fleet looked tiny by comparison. They are going to be slaughtered, one officer whispered. The human liaison officer stood beside them. He looked completely unconcerned. Just watch. The fleet opened communications. Their admiral appeared on every screen in the system, a massive creature with 4 arms and armored skin. Its voice was harsh and grating. Human vessels, you have entered controlled space without authorization. You have threatened research facilities. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we will consider you hostile and respond with lethal force. Admiral Jin's response was broadcast on all frequencies. Forces, you are in violation of Galactic Union laws prohibiting biological warfare. We are here to enforce those laws and protect the people. Stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded for war crimes investigation. The Admiral laughed, a horrible sound like metal grinding. You have 17 ships, we have 53. You cannot win. Withdraw now or die. We did not come here to negotiate, Jin said coldly. All ships weapons free, engage at will. The battle began. The fleet surged forward, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Their ships moved in a standard attack formation, heavy cruisers in front, destroyers on the flanks, carriers in the rear. It was textbook military strategy, used by aggressive species throughout the galaxy for thousands of years. The human fleet did something unexpected. They split. Captain Wu's dreadnought and 2 destroyers dove downward, using Prime's gravity well for acceleration. Admiral Jin's flagship and 4 cruisers went left, moving at speeds that should have torn the ships apart. The remaining human vessels went right, scattering in patterns that seemed random but were precisely calculated. The formation broke as they tried to follow multiple targets at once. Ships collided with each other. Orders got confused. Their neat formation dissolved into chaos within seconds. "Now," Wu said quietly. Human fighter craft launched from hidden bays. Hundreds of them, small and fast, piloted by men and women who had trained for exactly this type of combat. A pilot named led his squadron straight into the confused formation, targeting their communication arrays and sensor clusters. Missiles flew from human destroyers, but they did not target ships directly. Instead, they detonated in precise patterns, creating electromagnetic interference that blinded sensors. In the sudden darkness, human ships struck like ghosts. Wu's dreadnought emerged from below the planet, its firing at a carrier. The massive slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through shields and armor like paper. The carrier exploded in a ball of fire, taking its fighter complement with it. "Target their command ships," Wu ordered. "Cut off their coordination." On the human flagship, a young officer named worked at the electronic warfare station. Her fingers flew across holographic controls as she hacked into communication networks. Within minutes, she was broadcasting false orders on enemy frequencies, sending ships to wrong positions, creating confusion and friendly fire incidents. The admiral tried to regain control, but his orders were lost in the chaos. His ships were fighting blind, confused, attacking shadows and each other. The humans moved through them like wolves through sheep. But they had numbers, and numbers still mattered. 3 human destroyers took heavy damage and had to fall back. A cruiser lost its engines and drifted helpless. They were beginning to adapt, beginning to understand human tactics. Then something unexpected happened. New ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Not human ships, not ships. 5 other species, inspired by human courage, had sent their own fleets to help. The Federation, the Collective, 3 smaller civilizations who had been too afraid to act alone but found strength in numbers. The tide shifted. Marine Commander Na stood in the troop bay of a boarding craft, checking her equipment one last time. Around her, 40 human Marines did the same. They wore powered armor and carried weapons designed for close combat in space stations. "Remember the mission," Na said, her voice calm despite the explosions visible through the portholes. "We need that biowarfare data intact. Kill anyone who tries to stop us, but do not destroy the laboratories. They need that information to synthesize a cure." The boarding craft launched from the human carrier's Pride, which had just arrived with reinforcements. It dodged through the battle, small enough to avoid notice, fast enough to avoid being caught. Its destination was Outpost 7, the source of the plague. The station was defended, but most of its protection fleet had gone to join the battle at Prime. Only 3 ships remained on guard duty. The boarding craft's pilot, a woman named Jin, flew through a gap in their patrol pattern and attached to the station's docking port. "Breaching in 3, 2, 1, Na said. Explosive charges blew open the airlock. Marines poured through, their weapons lighting up the dark corridors. Station personnel tried to fight back, but they were scientists and technicians, not soldiers. They died quickly. Na led her team toward the main laboratory. They encountered heavier resistance there, actual security forces in armor. The firefight was brutal and close, fought in tight corridors where there was no room for error. 2 Marines fell, killed by weapons, but the humans pressed forward, relentless and unstoppable. They reached the laboratory. Inside, scientists scrambled to destroy data, to eliminate evidence of their crimes. Na shot one reaching for a computer terminal. Another Marine grabbed a scientist trying to initiate a self-destruct sequence. "Secure the data cores," Na ordered. "Everything, download it all." Human technicians went to work, copying terabytes of information, pathogen designs, test results, records of 47 different biowarfare programs targeting peaceful species across the galaxy. evidence of crimes beyond measure. Station secured, Na reported. We have the data. Back at the main battle, the admiral realized his mistake. His forces were breaking. His command structure was shattered. The station was lost. And still the humans came, tireless and precise, killing his ships one by one. He tried to run. His flagship turned toward the edge of the system, engines burning at maximum power. Admiral Jin's flagship intercepted him. All batteries target that ship. Disable, do not destroy. We want him alive for trial. Precise fire crippled the flagship's engines. It drifted helpless, surrounded by human destroyers. Jin broadcast a message. Admiral, you are under arrest for war crimes, including biological warfare against civilian populations. Surrender your ship or we will board it by force. The admiral looked around his damaged bridge and knew he had lost. Around the system, his fleet was in ruins. 28 ships destroyed, 18 captured, 7 fleeing toward space. The humans had won despite being outnumbered 3-1. On Prime, Hay stood in her laboratory next to the human medical officer Sung. Between them was a data terminal showing the information downloaded from Outpost 7, the original pathogen, the unmodified strain, everything they needed to create a real cure. How long? Hay asked. Sung's fingers flew across the controls, analyzing the data. 6 hours, maybe 8. We can synthesize the vaccine and begin mass production immediately. Hay felt tears running down her face. For the first time in weeks, they were tears of relief. My people are going to live. Yes, Sung said softly. They are, that is why we came. In orbit, the battle ended. The fleet was destroyed or captured. The biowarfare station was under human control. And across 3 worlds, infected patients began to receive the first doses of a cure that actually worked. The plague was dying at last. They expected medical aid, received human warships instead. 2 weeks had passed since the battle. The Central Park in Prime's capital city was full of life again. Children played on the grass. Families walked together, enjoying the sunshine. Street vendors sold food and flowers. It looked like any normal day except for one thing. Every person there had been infected with the plague. Every person there should have been dead. Ambassador stood at the edge of the park, watching a group of children chase each other around a fountain. Beside him stood Admiral Jin, still in her military uniform, though she looked more relaxed than before. The infection rate dropped to 0 3 days ago, said quietly. All 3 worlds are now plague-free. Your medical team synthesized enough vaccine for every in the system. You saved 4 billion lives. Jin watched the children play. We did what needed to be done, nothing more, nothing less. It was more than that, insisted. Every other species in the galaxy sent us sympathy. You sent us salvation. We asked for doctors and you brought warships. At first I thought you had abandoned us. I thought you had misunderstood our plea. I was wrong. You understood perfectly. In a hospital across the city, Chief Medical Director Hay walked through wards that had been full of dying patients just weeks ago. Now they were nearly empty. A few patients remained, those who had suffered complications or needed extended recovery, but they were healing, actually healing. The human medical officer Sung walked beside her, checking patient charts. Over the past 2 weeks, Sung and Hay had worked together constantly, coordinating the vaccine distribution, treating the sickest patients, training medical staff in new techniques. They had become friends. Your people did well, Sung said, reviewing a patient's progress. Despite the crisis, despite the fear, your medical teams never gave up. That courage saved lives even before we arrived. Hay smiled tiredly. We learned from you. You showed us that sometimes courage means doing the impossible thing instead of the comfortable thing. Before you came, we would have kept trying to cure the plague the peaceful way. We would have kept failing. We would have died with our principles intact but our people extinct. Do you regret the violence? Sung asked carefully. Hay thought about it for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that beings died, even enemy beings. But I do not regret the outcome. My people live. That is worth more than my personal feelings about violence. At the Galactic Union headquarters, a special session was. Representatives from 300 species watched as the human delegation presented evidence of biowarfare programs. Saul, the intelligence officer, displayed data from Outpost 7. 47 species targeted, hundreds of billions of civilians infected, thousands of years of coordinated biological warfare for profit. The ambassador tried to defend his empire, but the evidence was overwhelming. Every crime documented, every victim identified. The data cores from the station contained everything. The Galactic Union passed the protocols by unanimous vote. Any use of biological warfare against civilian populations would now be met with immediate military response. No debates, no diplomatic delays, no tolerance. 17 other species who had been secretly infected by pathogens received cures based on the captured data. Millions more lives saved. The Empire faced sanctions, reparations, and war crimes trials that would last for years. On the human carrier Pride, Marine Commander Na attended a memorial service for the soldiers who had died during the battle. 17 human lives lost. 17 men and women who would never go home. Their names were read aloud, one by one, while their comrades stood at attention. Ambassador had come to the service, bringing with him traditional memorial crystals. They were beautiful objects, clear and multifaceted, inscribed with prayers for the dead. He placed one for each fallen human, a gesture of respect from a grateful people. "They came to save us," said during the ceremony. "They did not know us well. We had been allies for only a short time, but when we called for help they answered, not with words or sympathy but with action, with sacrifice. These 17 gave their lives so that billions of could keep theirs. We will remember them forever." Na stood rigid, fighting tears. She had commanded some of those soldiers. She had sent them into combat knowing some might not return. That was the burden of command, the weight of leadership. But it never got easier. A week later, the Galactic Union held a formal assembly to address the crisis and its resolution. Every member species sent representatives. The chamber was full. Ambassador stood at the central podium, preparing to speak. He had thought carefully about what he wanted to say. "Honored representatives," began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "2 months ago the people faced extinction. We sent a distress call asking for medical aid. We received sympathy from many species. We received thoughts and prayers. We received advice and well wishes. We received promises of future assistance. All of these things were kind and we are grateful for them, but they did not save us." He paused, looking around the chamber. Only one species responded with action: humanity. They sent 17 warships and 17,000 soldiers. When we saw those warships arrive, we were confused. We were frightened. We thought they had misunderstood our plea. We asked for doctors and they sent warriors. We asked for medicine and they sent missiles. His voice grew stronger. But humanity understood something we did not. They understood that our plague could not be cured with medicine alone. They understood that someone was deliberately killing us, and that person would never stop until they were forced to stop. So humanity did not come to treat our symptoms. They came to eliminate our disease entirely. He gestured to the human delegation. They did not just save lives. They exposed a galactic crime that had been ongoing for centuries. They freed 47 species from biological warfare programs. They forced this union to finally take action against biowarfare instead of just condemning it. They changed the galaxy. The chamber was silent, every representative listening intently. "I have learned something important," continued. "Sometimes the greatest act of healing is not treating the wound, but destroying the weapon that caused it. Sometimes mercy requires strength. Sometimes peace can only be protected by those willing to fight for it. Humanity came to us with warships because they understood that our enemies respected only force. They came with soldiers because they knew our pacifism could not save us. He looked directly at the human delegation. We asked for medical aid, and we received human warships instead. At the time, I thought it was the wrong response. Now I understand it was the only response that could have worked. For that wisdom, for that courage, for that sacrifice, the people are eternally grateful. The chamber erupted in applause. Not all species approved of human methods, but none could deny the results. The lived. The biowarfare program was destroyed. Justice had been served. After the assembly, Admiral Jin met with privately. They stood on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Your speech was appreciated," Jin said, "but you do not need to praise us. We did not come for glory or recognition. We came because it was the right thing to do." "I know," replied. "That is exactly why you deserve praise. You did not help us because you expected rewards or because you wanted something from us. You helped us because we needed help and you were able to provide it. That is what true allies do." Jin nodded slowly. "There will be criticism. Some species think we were too aggressive, too quick to resort to violence. They say we should have tried diplomacy first." "Those species sent us sympathy while we died," said flatly. "Their opinions mean very little to me now. I have learned that when humans care about someone, they do not offer bandages for wounds. They hunt down whoever caused the wounds and make sure it never happens again. That is the human way. It is harsh. It is violent. It is also effective." "We prefer peaceful solutions," Jin said carefully. "But we do not allow perfect to be the enemy of good. Your people needed help in weeks, not months or years. We gave you what you needed when you needed it." Smiled. "You gave us more than that. You gave us hope. You showed us that in this dangerous galaxy, we have an ally who will not abandon us when things get difficult. An ally who will send warships to protect us and then warships full of doctors to heal us. That is worth more than all the sympathy in the universe." On Earth, in a military cemetery in South Korea, a new memorial was unveiled. 17 names carved in stone, with epitaphs in both human and script. The inscription at the base read, "They came with warships because sometimes peace requires strength. They came with weapons because sometimes mercy requires justice. They died far from home so that billions of strangers could live." Admiral Jin attended the ceremony with ambassador. Families who had been saved by the human intervention sent messages of gratitude. Flowers and memorial gifts covered the monument, offerings from a grateful civilization to those who had saved them. "We will teach our children about this," said quietly, standing before the memorial. "We will tell them how humanity came when no one else would, how you brought warships instead of hospitals, and how that was exactly what we needed. Future generations will know what you did for us." Jin placed her hand on the cold stone, feeling the carved letters under her fingers. "We did not come to make war, ambassador. We came to end one." Nodded. "And in doing so, you taught the galaxy what true friendship means. You taught us that sometimes the greatest medicine is justice. The greatest healing is protection. The greatest mercy is strength used to defend the innocent." Above them, human and ships patrolled together, a joint defense force ensuring that no one would ever threaten the worlds again. Medical ships and warships working side by side, both necessary, both valued, both part of what humanity brought to the stars. The memorial ceremony ended. People left flowers and returned to their lives, but the message remained, carved in stone for all time. Humanity had come with warships when the galaxy needed them. They had brought violence to end violence. They had fought a war to guarantee peace. And they had saved 4 billion lives in the process. That was what it meant to have humanity as an ally.